Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me again for the show. I'm your host, Louise H. Reed. Each week on the show, I invite you to sit in on a conversation with a new guest, someone who is an incredible example of taking brave, bold action in pursuit of their dreams and goals, and are here to share their journey to help you do the same in yours. My hope is that you walk away from the show inspired and equipped to level up in your own life and leadership. My amazing VA, Mel, has started capturing notes and quotes from each show. So to get a copy of these each week, simply go to my website, subscribe to my email list, and I promise I'll only send you one email a week, and it'll include the best notes and quotes from the show. Finally, remember that I love to give away exclusive Lady Boss Loyalty swag as a way of saying thank you to you for spending your time with me. Simply comment on a podcast episode with the hashtag LadyBossLoyalty and you will automatically be entered into the draw. Without further ado, let me introduce and welcome our guest of the week. We have with us Michelle Baxo.
Hello, hello.
Yes, hello. So let me share a little bit about you, Michelle, and we'll just jump on into the goodness. So Michelle is an empowerment coach, and she teaches high-achieving women to go from powerless to powerful in every aspect of life. Michelle's passion for helping women create the life of their dreams started from her own personal journey from successful but single to empowered and in love. In just 2 years, over 12,000 women have started to follow Michelle's work through email and social media, and her YouTube channel has had over 22,000 views and counting. Michelle has been featured in Forbes and quoted in places like Cosmo, the Toronto Sun, and Insider. Michelle has also been interviewed as an expert in countless summits and podcasts, and her articles have been published in Dreams Recycled and Thrive Global. Most recently, Michelle spoke at the One Woman Fearless Summit in Toronto with a 20-minute talk sharing her story from going powerless to powerful. Michelle has a master's degree in counseling psychology and a professional background in psychotherapy, mind-body healing, and coaching. She has spoken at personal development events to hundreds of people. Michelle is also located in Toronto, Canada, my hometown, and is available to speak on topics such as self-love, dating, relationships, communication, and women empowerment. Michelle, my friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Woo! I'm super pumped. I don't know if you know this. So I was having dinner recently with my partner. You didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
No, you didn't know that. And I was talking about you and interviewing you on the show. And he's like, so how do you know Michelle? I said, I don't know if she even knows that I saw her speak at an event in Hollywood. I think it was Hollywood that you spoke.
I think it was Las Vegas.
It was Las Vegas. It's like they're totally different cities.
That's okay. Well,
and yet they both went together. Anyway, and so I knew when I saw you there, I'm like, this woman is a badass and I need to know her. So anyway, so I'm thrilled to finally have this chance to share some time with you and share your awesomeness and your power and your energy and your experience with my listeners. So thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to be here. And I love that you were there in Vegas. What a weekend that was. My goodness.
Yeah. Wasn't it?
Yeah. The good, bad, and ugly. My gosh. So.
Well, that's when amazing things and tough things can be revealed, during the messy periods and joyful,
and I know we were going to talk about this, but, something I think is really interesting to point out, especially since we're in a time right now where things are rough, they're raw, they're real. When we were in Vegas, at that event, other people wouldn't know this, but that's when the mass shooting in Vegas happened. It happened while we were there. And I remember, and it was partway, it was sort of like towards the end of that weekend. And I remember the palpable difference between what it was like being in that room with all of those incredible, like mostly women, but I don't think it necessarily had to be women specific, but just these incredible women who are out to make a massive difference in their own lives and for the lives of others. The energy in that room compared to everywhere else was palpable.
It was.
Like I didn't want to be anywhere else in that room. I was like, you could feel it all the way to your bones, how different that was. And that was even without the shooting. I would say that was the case, but it was very much amplified, obviously, after that had happened. And I think it speaks volumes to this conversation of what we're going to be looking at, of empowerment, of mindset, of who we are for ourselves and others, and the real opportunity there is at a time right now when, it's everyone's got a different version of why this sucks. Let's be honest, right? And I know there's lots to be grateful for, all that, yeah. We all know that, right? But there's also, a different version of why it sucks for everybody. And I think everyone has the right to that part and that truth. But inside of all of that, it's like, okay, so what are we going to bring to it? Are we going to bring what's there by default, which would be so normal and so natural and so understanding? But is there anything we can add to this that doesn't take away from the pain and suffering that needs to be felt, but at the same time maybe add something that we can each as an individuals be proud of and sort of change that palpable feeling, right?
I love it. I love it how you just tied that into, the meat of the conversation that we want to have today. And the reality, and just I like how you expressed that both seemingly opposite and polarized emotions can actually exist at the same time.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh, you just gave me chills, because what you just said there is the epitome of what I do and what I do. That's the in-between. That's the in-between. And people will look at my website and be like, what is this in-between that she keeps saying? It's that. It actually is that we default to that there's this either or. And it's very natural to default to the either or. But the magic is when we merge the two, when we find room with the dance and flow and intertwindle, if that's a word, I'm going to make up a word, the intertwindle.
I love it.
of the two polarities, right? The suffering and the gratitude, the pain and the joy, the independence and the deep connections and the dependence, right?
I know. I love it.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can, and I know you have recently written a book, and I can't wait to talk a little bit more about that. But then I'm putting words in your mouth here, but I've just done my own first manuscript. I'm not as far along the journey as you are, but feeling insecure and then also really, really secure and confident in other parts of my life. Both can.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'd love to do is I just want to rewind the clock a little bit, because when, 8-year-old Michelle Baxo was going to school, she didn't want to be an empowerment coach and talk to people about how they find the in-between. So I think I know a lot. Well, I'm really interested in getting into that and understanding. I'm really interested in understanding how you got to this place, and then to explore it a little bit more, because many people I know who you will have worked with, who I have worked with, and who I know are listening to the show wonder, well, shit, how did you find that? They're looking and searching for that aha moment themselves. And so while I don't think you can just decide to go out one day and find it, I think it's interesting hearing people's stories and journeys. Yeah. So take us back a little bit to little Michelle.
Oh my God.
I can imagine you were quite the Spitfire. So
tell us. No. And that's funny. That's something that I always find really interesting is, how my personality, so to speak, got developed is very much probably more a product of my personal development work than it is anything, which actually, and I say that, but really our personal development work is just removing the constraints that have been there, but those constraints get built from a really young age. So I don't know exactly how you would have described me as a child. I think I definitely was a pleaser until about the age of 12. I was very much a pleaser. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. So I only knew separation. And they didn't get on well. And it was just always like and then my mom and stepdad had split up later, and I have half siblings who very much don't feel like half siblings to me at all. They're really just my siblings. But the household was different, right, and a little bit complex. But I very much, as the somewhat middle child, wanted just everybody to feel okay. And I had a lot of anxiety about that as a child, to the point where when it came, I always knew that I wanted to move far away from home, and I didn't know this until I started doing work on myself, but I realized it was because when I was home, I felt like it was my job to fix everybody. And I would, if anyone argued or cried, I mean, families argue,
Oh yeah.
I didn't have like some horrible upbringing.
No, divorced or otherwise, families do that.
Yeah, of course. Right. So, but if someone was arguing, I'd be up in my room bawling. Like I just couldn't be with arguments, suffering. It was, really hard for me, to the point where I just knew as soon as I could leave, I was out of there. So it was the idea of traveling all over the world was very appealing to me. The idea of going away for university, very appealing for me. When I went to university, even then I was like, wherever I know my job's not going to be in my hometown. Like that was how it was for me. And yet I never would have said I didn't love my family. I totally did. But that was something that really impacted me quite a bit. In terms of, I'm just trying to think, I think if I look back, I was someone that people could come and talk to. I was kind of the person I had this sort of, I don't know, you never really know. I think I had a certain kind of self-assurance or confidence that had people feel like, okay, I'm going to ask her what I should do. Like that sort of seemed to be a role that I played a lot. But again, for me, it caused, again, a lot of suffering and angst, because I felt like it was my job to fix.
Yeah.
And anyone out there knows that when we're trying to fix people, it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well, right? Newsflash, friends. Right? People aren't broken, so they can't actually be fixed. And then it also sort of messed my head up and brought me to a little bit of self-righteousness at times too, right? Where like I thought I knew better somehow, and that's not the case either, right? So it's sort of interesting how it looked then. You wouldn't have thought I would have wound up here. So so I did my undergraduate degree in environmental studies, actually. Oh. So I decided I got later in high school. Gosh, there's so many parts of this story I could tell you, but I'm just going to kind of,
go where you feel moved to go.
Yeah. I'm like, should I talk about how I got into trouble in high school? I don't know. But I swung, right? So in terms of the extreme, so as a kid, I was a pleaser. When I turned around 12, like hit puberty, 11, 12, I became the opposite. I was like, F you to everybody, screw this. I'm going to tell you the honest truth, which meant I was bitchy all the time. Right. Really hard. I started smoking, drinking, doing all kinds of stuff, right. Dating much older guys, because I looked older also when I was younger. I don't know. And so I was, I dated older guys, and there was always this strive to be cool, all of this stuff. Right. And then when I was 16, I was so blessed. I went to summer camp as a kid throughout my whole childhood, which was always
the best thing ever.
God, the best thing ever. Yeah. If you can find a camp, for some kids, the experience is terrible.
I guess
but
you're right.
If you find the camp that's right for you, if you find the camp that right for you, it's the best thing, because it's like a reset button every summer, right? No matter who you sort of got caught up in being during the year, you get to let all that go and just be yourself and have fun for the summer is the best. So when I was 16, I was a junior counselor, which meant the whole summer I was there. Didn't get paid, but we were like basically volunteering as training to be camp counselors. And that was the best thing I could have ever done. It was right after I got in a lot of trouble. But it was like, I got in trouble and I was like, this isn't me. Like, whoa, this is not the path I'm meant to go on for sure. And so it gave me that reset, reevaluate everything, and started living my life from like, what are my actual values? What kind of person do I really want to be? And I don't think a lot of 16-year-olds get the opportunity to ask those questions. I was so lucky. And so I actively really, I took myself completely out of who I was hanging out with, shaved my head, no joke, shaved my head, was like, I'm done with all of this trying to be cool and pretty and sexy thing. Like, it's not working for me. It's going to get me in jail. I'm not doing that. Right. And so, I went from being a straight A student to almost failing. Like, it was so clear I was not on the right path.
Yeah.
I got myself off that path, ended up, becoming really passionate about nature and the environment. Did my undergraduate degree in environmental studies, loved it, and but wasn't really into any of the careers that could come out of that. So I went back a couple of years later. I went back to school, did my teaching degree for environmental education and experiential learning, which was like, oh my gosh, the dream job, right? And I was very lucky. I right out of teachers college got a job as a school teacher, and I taught grade 8 humanities and environmental outdoor education. Dream job, right? And there I was in it. And while I was there, I was in a relationship in a very unhealthy relationship. He was an alcoholic, trying not to be, but the cyclical patterns of that. And then also I had this great job, but I was in a city that I didn't love. I knew it wasn't where I was meant to be. So I just had this sinking feeling all the time that this isn't my life. And I felt guilty for feeling that way, because here I was, I had a great job. I worked in a great school. The principal was incredible. I had, someone who was ready to love me at any time. And I had left that and had developed some good friendship, but so much of my life just felt like this isn't my life. And I couldn't shake it, but then the universe shook it for me. Yeah. So
it does that.
Yeah, really. So a series of unfortunate things happened. I won't go into detail of that in this, but, a series of really unfortunate and scary things happened to me, enough that I took a leave of absence from my job and got help. Right. So I explored things like biofeedback. I'd done acupuncture before, but doing acupuncture for my mental health.
Wow.
So that I didn't have to take, I do believe that medication is appropriate for some, but I wanted to exhaust all options before I did that. And I had this amazing, I did cognitive behavioral therapy. Yeah. Then I had this amazing psychologist when I went back to teaching, who did both traditional and very unconventional approaches to mental health. And she started teaching me all of these amazing mind-body techniques, pendulum dowsing, physical dowsing, tapas acupressure technique, like just all these amazing techniques that really cracked me open to, oh my gosh, there is a world here that's available for me and for people. Like, I didn't know what it was, but I was like, something's opening up here. And I finally was able to say to her, I don't know what it is. I just don't think I should be teaching. And I feel terrible because I'm good at it. I have a great job. It's like this, you know what I mean? It's really like everything I ever wanted, and yet it doesn't feel right. And I don't think I should even be here. And she said to me, well, maybe you're meant to be teaching, but just not like, education. Right. And I was like, oh, I think you're right. And then I made this decision, and I think that many people probably listening maybe they have, either they're about to, or they probably have done something like this before, where I'd said to myself, look, this awful stuff happened and I feel like recovered, but I don't want to just recover. I want it to be the springboard for my, can I swear?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I wanted to be the springboard for my, fuck yeah, this is my life. Like I had just this feeling of what really living my life could feel like. And I had no idea how to access it, but I wanted it. I was hungry for it. Yeah. And then she had actually mentioned to me something I'd heard about for 20 years, which was called the Landmark Forum. And I don't know, did you ever do the Landmark Forum?
I did. I left halfway through.
Oh, you should have finished it. Yeah. Okay. Don't do it again. Maybe it's just a botched one, right? Anyway, it was okay. So for me, I had an incredible experience, but it was like that thing. My mom had talked about it for my whole childhood. I was like, yeah, landmark, la la. But all of a sudden, here I am saying, like, I want my health, I want my fuck yes life. That's what I want. And she's like, ever heard of the landmark form? I'm like, that's all I need to hear. Okay, I'm doing it. Right. And really out of it, literally after that weekend, I started living, I was able to get complete everything that was holding me back. I realized I had chosen my career around what was safe, what would please everybody, what made sense logically, as opposed to really following my heart, my ambitions, and taking the risks to do that. And my relationships, that was my everything, right? Yeah. And so during the weekend, I let my principal know I was leaving.
Wow.
He was so supportive of it. This is what you want to get, is it wasn't like I caused this train wreck. Yeah. It was like the people around me were so clear that what I was doing was like so my truth, that she was like, listen, I'll make sure if you ever want a job back here, you can get one back here. You go, girl. Like, she was like, oh, it just gives me goosebumps thinking how incredible that woman is. If you're hearing this.
Yeah, seriously. So I want to pause here for a second. There's so much goodness and so many places that I could go with what you shared. And the reason that's part of the reason why I wanted you to pause. There's a few things that you've said that one comment I want to make, and then a few questions. One is, I just love, part of the reason why I like to look back and kind of move through is because then as a listener, so myself as a listener, you can see, it was a series of things that led you to right where you are. It's not
including
just one
the
day.
shitty things.
It is, right?
Yeah.
It's true. I remember when my sister was really sick for about 4 years. I remember people saying to me, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I wanted to punch them in the fucking face.
Yeah.
So don't say that to someone who's actually right in the depths of their pain. It's probably not so good, but I learned that it is true.
Yeah. It's true in hindsight.
It is. It's like, no. I could do without this thing.
I'm barely holding on. What are you talking about?
Right. There's no strength in this right now. Yeah. And so I love, your honest recollection of the hard things that happened. And it's true that if you can take a moment to actually reflect on it and learn from it as you did, and you didn't do it alone. That's, I guess, another thing I wanted to point out. We get nowhere alone, do we? And you've mentioned a few people, and I'm sure there's many more.
People. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So many for sure. Yeah.
So I just wanted to just acknowledge the sharing that you did, and then those, the pieces that all sort of come together. And then I wanted to ask you about, I think Oprah calls them whispers of the soul, and you heard a number of them, and I too heard and have heard a number in my life. And when you don't listen, the whispers get louder, and screams happen, and earthquakes happen, and tornadoes happen in your life until you actually start to listen.
Yeah.
I understand that, seeing a really great therapist and having supportive people in your life were really important. And then this weekend was mentioned to you again, and you went, but you still had to have the courage to take action. So tell us what that was actually like. How did you find something within you to do that? Because I feel like many people are at the precipice, right? Or at the mountain, like right at the tipping edge, like we're about to jump and leap, and then fear holds them back. Tell me about that.
For sure. Okay. So in this particular part of the story, the leap was leaving my job and not knowing. Here's the thing. I talked about it. I had planned for it, but in my mind, I had to have it all figured out first before I was going to do that. Right. So I was looking to see if jobs are available. And this was like, no one was hiring teachers at that time in Ontario. There's no way. Yeah. We're talking like about 10 years ago. No, there's no way. There was a huge surplus. So that wasn't happening. And so I just didn't have any answers. So I just stuck. So for sure, I mean, to be honest with you, I want to just give credit where credit's due. It was for sure that weekend that gave me access to the courage. But I can say that, I remember the moment. Well, first of all, I remember going to someone in the back, and I was a little panicked about something in the back. And I was like, I still haven't chosen, because there's a seminar series that comes at the end of it for free that you get included. And I'm like, I don't know. Am I going to do it in Toronto, or am I going to do it in Calgary? Like, I don't know where. Right? Like, it's okay if you decide, you can always change it. Like, no, you don't understand. This is like a really big freaking decision for me. And there's this distinction that we talk about choosing as distinct from deciding. So deciding is like, you look at the pros and cons and you weigh them and you make the best decision you can. Choice, now I'm not going to get this right, but I don't know how to explain it except giving yourself the freedom to choose. Like to just choose because you choose. And even if it doesn't fully make sense, that you just choose it because you choose it, the end. And my mother used to always say something to me, and this stuck with me at that time too, which is, well, if you make a choice and you don't like the results, you can always make more choices. Like you never run out of opportunities to make choices. And that always stuck with me too, whenever I was too scared to do something. And so what I did is I went in the bathroom mirror on that break and I looked in the mirror and I just decided to pretend like my decision was to move back to Toronto, and not knowing what I was going to do, but just trusting that I would figure it out. So I looked in the mirror and I pretended like I was, I know what it was. I was pretending like I was telling someone that that's what I'm doing. Like it's the truth. And I said, I'm moving to Toronto and no, I'm going to figure it out. And I can't even just tell you like how I just felt it through my body that that's what I wanted and that that's what I was going to do. And there was nothing holding me back. So it was a very deep moment. There was no guarantees. I had nothing. I had no guarantees, but I knew who I was going to be for myself.
A deep
sense
of knowing.
And the uncertainty. I knew it was a decision I had made. And actually it was as much a recognition of who I'd already been for myself as it was, as much of that as it was, and now who I'm going to be as I actively put myself in this difficult, potentially risky situation.
Yeah. I love it.
That was the moment.
So what came next?
So I moved to Toronto. So I grew up just outside of Toronto, decided I want to live in the city of Toronto, which was a big leap for me. And mostly in the beginning was, I found a job that I was very qualified for originally. I worked for a park where I got to create like leadership, environmental programs for kids and stuff. It was like, I knew I was really good at that. I knew I could get hired for that just to kind of keep things afloat. Right. So I did that, but I knew I didn't want to stay there. And then I decided to do my master's degree in counseling psychology. So I found a way to do that. And then, but I also became a Reiki master at the same time.
Of course you did. Like,
I know all of this, it all made so much sense to me, because what I realized I really wanted to bring to people is I wanted to help people live the most, like be free in their lives and live whatever an amazing life means. But I knew that there are conventional practices that are very useful for that. But I also knew that there were non-conventional, from my own experience, that there were some things that just can't come out of the strictly conventional. So I wanted to merge the two. So this
is the in-between that you didn't even know.
I didn't know. Yeah, I didn't know. But that's, essentially what I was doing. So I became a Reiki master. So did my 3 levels in master level. I was getting my master's degree in counseling psychology and studying that. But in order to make some extra money. So I was also very much interested in how do I live the most awesome life, even on the journey. So I feel like a lot of people suffer on the journey, like, oh, I have to work at some crappy place in order to, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm only going to live an awesome life. So I looked at what are all the things that are important to me? How can I weave this together to have it make sense? And I decided that temporarily I would become a dog walker. And so so my first business actually was a dog walking business. And the reason is because I wanted to spend time outside. I wanted to be active. I needed to bring in some income while I was studying counseling psychology and beginning my Reiki practice. And this was perfect. Wow. Like, hey, dog walking. Now, again, I knew that wasn't my long game, but it also taught me a lot about starting a small business. It got my mind oriented around, because it's different when you go from salary to self-employment. It's a totally different mindset, right? Yeah,
like you don't even know until you do it. And you're like, oh, I thought I was ready, but
No, but it was great because I had to say things like, oh, I want to upgrade my internet to a faster package. Okay, well, how many more dogs does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, then go out and get them, like that was, so it was perfect training. And it was also a great way to live an awesome life while I was navigating this new journey I was on. All the while I had been participating in Landmark's programs, right? Because there's a curriculum for living that you can do. And so then I had started my own private practice. Once I finished my degree, I was working partly under the supervision of a psychologist, and then I also had my own practice. And it would be Reiki and or mind body healing and or counseling. It was sort of its own. So it depended on the individual what they were looking for, what they wanted, right? And then I was asked to join working at Landmark. And to me, I was like, holy shit. Like, these were the people that changed my whole life.
Yeah, I've made it.
What's that?
I've made it.
I made it.
Yeah.
No, they're asking me to work there. And it was a tough decision for me initially. I wanted to, but the commitment is huge to work for that company because you're really taking it on as a personal mission to transform the world. Right. And that's really why their programs are so effective, because everybody involved, whether they're volunteering or working there, it is a personal, wholehearted mission to allow people to be free and transformed and live amazing lives, which was fully in alignment with what I wanted for people. And so I started working there part-time, doing both. But the position itself, oh my God, Louise, the position itself was finance manager, which if you know me, you would know that is not what you would expect me to be. Not like I was like one of the people. I was like, it was like I was the person responsible. But it was inside of a whole culture of all personal professional development. So it was constant transformation all the time. And I thought, well, here's a great opportunity to transform my relationship to numbers and graphs and charts and all the things I hate in the world. I guess I'm going to have to learn to love it. Right. And I did. And I actually oh my God. In the beginning, I cried at least once every day because I was so frustrated by the limitations of my brain, because I expected I needed to go at a certain pace. Yeah. This was some of the best learning I ever did doing that. Learning to actually slow down to however much I need to slow down until I can fully get it. And only when I started doing that did I begin the process of becoming masterful at it, to the point where people would get me on calls and help train other people in the thing that I was brutal at just a few months before, So,
what a learning there though, right? What?
Oh my God.
Huge learning.
Yeah. And so then I was like so blown away by that. I'm always blown away by transformation. I just think it's the coolest thing in the world, right? When you think you can't do something and then it turns out you can. Like, how cool is that? Yeah. So anyway, I ended up actually making the choice to do that full on. So I closed my practice, took it full on with another with a different position, and essentially worked my way up to becoming the assistant center manager, and then was training to manage the entire Toronto center. So that was the pathway I was on, and also led one of their leadership programs. Anyway, so I was very much involved in transformation, coaching, turning myself inside out, helping other people turn themselves inside out to, live the most wild, amazing life we can all possibly live. And then there was this one freaking area that I couldn't transform, Louise. Guess what it was?
Dating.
Yes.
I
could not get my love life to work for the freaking life of me. I'm like, I can become a successful finance manager.
I can't get myself a good man.
A good man to commit to me? Are you kidding me? What is wrong with me? Right? It was really, and I messed around with it for a while. I started to wonder, like, maybe I don't actually want this, so I had very responsible lover-like relationships. I had irresponsible relationships, like all kinds of different things, but none of it was what I actually wanted. And that was a really hard thing for me to admit, actually, especially because I had this regarded leadership role, and I was seen as being this powerful woman. And quite honestly, I think that the image I gave off was that I was really happy with being single, like that this is how I wanted it to be.
You had your shit together.
I did have my shit together in other areas. I did.
Yeah.
And I was happy and grateful and felt powerful in the other areas, but I did not, if you really got me, if you put a glass of wine in me and got me to tell the truth, I was not happy in that area. And I was really scared because I was, in my mid 30s, like wondering, like, so is this not in the cards for me? And I didn't know if it was because if there was something about me that I couldn't see that was having the people I thought I wanted to, like, why they didn't want to necessarily commit to me, or was it that I just simply was not ever going to be satisfied with what was available? Because even people like would suggest, like, well, maybe this is going to sound so egotistical, but I'm sure other people have thought that. But I even had thoughts like, maybe I'm too evolved for a relationship. It's embarrassing now, right? But I'm like, maybe I've just developed myself too much. Maybe I'm too spiritual. Maybe I'm too, like, I can just see beyond too much of the bullshit now that I can't be in a relationship. And I even had a healer once say to me, you're meant to love the world. Maybe you're not meant to be with just one. And I was like, oh, well, that's not fair.
I don't like this.
Why is it either or? Why is it either or? It shouldn't have to be.
Nope. It can be yes and.
Yeah. So I decided to, I was really big and, obviously very involved in personal development. So I decided to design a project, or you could say a program for myself to find love without compromising myself. That was like the big thing. Like, I know I could like find someone, I guess, right? But like someone that I really want, that I would fall head over heels for, they'd fall head over heels for me. And we wouldn't be codependent. We'd actually empower each other. Like this whole idea, like this is God, if it's going to be possible, I'm going to figure it out. But I have to admit that I don't know what I'm doing. I have to admit that I got to drop my ego about it. I got to drop my pride about it and like really take this on vulnerably and powerfully, right? Power love, you hear it, right?
Right. And so how did you do that?
So I decided to create a video blog with my phone, with my cheap, crappy at the time phone. And what I did, so first of all, I sought out a bunch of love and dating advice, some from professionals, some from people in my life, some from like, acquaintances, like the whole mix, right? And then made a bit of a game of it where I would go on 2 dates a week and I would test out, I would do one dating like tip, like something sort of a little more superficial tip, and then a personal, something around my personal development. And took that onto each date, and then I would report on it by video, and it was this video blog. It's not available anymore, guys. Well, my clients get to see it, but it's not. Anyway, if you look and go looking for it, you won't find it. But anyway, so that's what I did, and the probably one of the most powerful things about it was the squashing of the shame that I had to do in order to do this. Because maybe conceptually it sounds like this really cool idea, but as the person doing it, I was mortified. I would think to myself, like, what are like the people who I went to college going to think, or university? What are they going to think? Like, what are my extended family? What's my dad going to think if he sees this? What, like, what about, just like the people, anyone except for my closest friends, what are they going to think? It seems desperate. It seems like a little out there. It seems, but that's why I needed to do it, because one of the biggest things that I could see that was in my way is that I wasn't letting myself fully want what I wanted. Wow. It was like I needed to have this edge. Like, in order for me to be powerful, I can't want a relationship. And I don't think I ever thought that, but that's what was in the background, right? I don't think I ever would have said that out loud. But this whole idea of needing a man, not needing a man, needing a relationship, not, like, you know what I mean? It got taken too far. I know I don't, what, can I not need someone and also want someone? I think so, right? And so I started looking at, well, look, if I were starting this like new exciting business, I wouldn't keep it to myself. I would shout it from the rooftops. And then I started making it when I saw how big of a difference that was just making for me, breaking through that shame and getting excited about something and sharing about it from a place of excitement and vulnerability, but power too, right? Yeah. I was able to see this isn't just for me. This is actually me making my love life, my journey of love, about something bigger than myself. And it started to become an inspiration to other people, and other people started doing it too and sharing their journey online. It was this very cool little ripple effect that happened on Facebook around that time. And I was like, we are on to something here. Because imagine if everyone just said what they actually wanted. It would be so easy, it would be so easy. And so coincidentally, Tommy saw one of my posts. And so Tommy's my now partner, right? But he saw one of my posts. He was a Facebook friend. He volunteered at Landmark. I didn't know the guy. I just like arranged for him. Do you know what I mean? Like it was like, really didn't know him. I just knew who he was. And we were Facebook friends. That's it. Never occurred to me that he was a potential for me at all. I had already written him off for sure. And he probably,
sorry, Tommy,
but he had written me off too, right?
Okay.
Like, see each other as potentials at all. And, but he saw my post, and one of my posts where I was actually sharing vulnerably about what it is that I actually want and that I had no idea how to find it, where I said things like, look, I'm looking for my rock. Like, here's what I can provide. I can provide the excitement. I can provide ideas. I can provide, like love and creativity and energy and softness. But what I'm not is a rock. I am not. And that's what I really need.
Yeah.
And I don't know where to find him. And I was basically like, tell me where to find him. Like that was the post at the time.
Wow.
And that was the one that got Tommy's attention, and he asked me out.
No.
Yeah. And I don't know. I don't normally get asked out. And that was one of the things that, besides, like online dating is different, but like in person, that wasn't something that happened to me regularly. Besides, like, because I didn't go to clubs, at clubs, I guess that happens, but I don't go to clubs anymore. I was in my 30s. Like, I didn't do that anymore. So, I didn't really do it that much when I was younger either. But so that wasn't something that happened to me in my day-to-day regular life. All of a sudden, someone phones me up and asks me out. Now, I had already met Tommy, and I was pretty sure, like, I figured I wasn't interested, or I would have already have known because I knew who he was. So I kind of wanted to say no, because it would have been awkward if, it didn't go well, and I was pretty sure it wouldn't. But because I had been asking for someone to pursue me, that was one of the things that I really want. I wanted to be swept off my feet. I wanted to be surprised by someone. And I committed to doing things differently than how I'd normally done them. And had, by the way, even though I invented this program, remember, I worked for a personal development company. So I had coaches holding me accountable. I did not do this alone, even though I invented the program. Okay.
I think that's a really, really good point.
Yeah, it's important to know
it
that.
is.
And so I went, I went, I said yes. And he totally surprised me. And I even already so I thought I'd found someone else actually right before him on the same day. I had to do, because I was working mega hours, remember, like 60, 70 hours a week. So for me to do 2 dates a week, that meant 2 dates on Sunday, back to back. And Tommy was date number 2 on that Sunday. And I really liked the guy. I was on a second date just before him. I really liked him. I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I had all these, there's so much more I could tell you about this journey, but about what led to this. But anyway, Tommy swept me off my feet. And we fell in love very quickly. Actually, we were both so in alignment, so clear about what we each wanted. It was like nothing. It was everything I wanted and nothing, but not the way I imagined it,
Yeah. And I think that's such an interesting point, because nothing in life really is. Mm-hmm. What you think that you want when you get it is not what you thought that you realize it's not what you wanted. And then the opposite is often true too.
Yes. Which is why, like, whether I'm helping people with their love life, with their career, with their social life, with their happiness. We do a whole section just on deepening clarity, because what we think we're clear about is actually putting limitations on having what we really want. And this
Okay,
happens
so
over and
say
over.
that again, because
Yeah.
it requires being emphasized.
Sure. So like, okay, so let me just give you an example. One of the things, so often when we're looking to manifest or create or fulfill things, people will say, get really clear about what we want. But we'll say things like, I know, like, okay, I want a man with broad, I can picture him. He has broad shoulders, he's this, he's that, he has this kind of, maybe this kind of job, this kind of personality even, right? Like we define exactly what it looks like. And I understand, I don't want to criticize certain strategies because maybe there's other parts to it that I don't know. But when people do just that part, often what happens is they think that if it doesn't look like that, they can't have what they really want. But what we really want isn't the size of someone's shoulders. It's the feeling and experience we want to have when we're with that person. So like feeling feminine or
So we're
feeling
asking ourselves the
secure
wrong
or feeling
questions.
taken care of.
Yeah.
Well, we're just looking for the wrong things. We're looking for the strategy that we think will increase our chances to get the thing we want instead of just looking for the thing we want. Right? If we just allowed ourselves to say, I'm really looking to have the experience of feeling, I'm just using this as an example,
Yep.
but like safe, I want to feel safe, cared for, and feminine. Well, there's two things now. One, there's a variety of ways a partner can help provide that. And there's a variety of things that I can do to provide that for myself, regardless of who I'm with. And there's also a variety of things I can do to help that person know how to give me those things. Because guess what? Broad shoulders do not guarantee a sense of safety. So I don't know why, you know what I mean? Or whatever it is, right?
Unless you're in a dark alley, maybe, but that's besides the point.
Or an outgoing personality does not necessarily equate to a deep connection.
So we're looking for qualities instead of how we want to feel.
That's right. Yeah. Well, but what we want to get is that we strategize, and we do that when we're picking jobs. We do that with there's a lot of people, for instance, that I don't know, will pick a job or pick a even like build their business based on solely strategy, which is like, I'm not saying it's bad to have strategy, for sure. You gotta have a business mind about things, but if it's not fulfilling the part of you that really, like, if you're not connected and really out to fulfill the part of you that really wants to be fulfilled, you're either going to be bad at it or burn out or be miserable doing it.
Okay.
Right? Like,
so I think you've probably, if you haven't already, you've really struck a chord with a number of listeners just in this last minute that you've been speaking. And so if in saying that their breath has been taken away, obviously we know that they can reach out to you. So I want you just to quickly tell us, how can they reach out to you? But what would a thing or two to sort of set them in positive motion? What could that be? Because I know it's not a quick answer to fix it all.
No, yeah.
How would they reach you? And also a step or two to set them in the right sort of direction.
For sure. Okay. So, well, to reach me, well, first of all, if you ever want to find me on Facebook and just send me a private message, that's like a real easy way to reach me. Right. Even if we're not Facebook friends, I'll still
awesome.
So you can do that. My website is michellebaxo.com, and you can find the ways to contact me there.
Awesome.
Right. But in terms of how to really take that to move you forward, is you want to look at, now, again, I do deep work with people on this. Okay. But as a place to start, look at the feeling. So, okay. Look at the feelings and experiences that you really want to have. I would actually look at it as a whole in life. Because again, we think, for work, I have to get this feeling, for the relationship, I have to get that. And from this, I have to get this. No, this is how I came up with that whole dog walking idea, was like, that wasn't what I wanted to do, but it fits so many of the things I wanted that it made sense temporarily for that time. Right. So we want to really unhinge all those strategies, get clear on the feelings that are important to you to have in life. Like, is it being fulfilled? Is it making a difference? Is it being honored? Is it, you know, all of whatever the things are for you, right? What are the feelings? And then what are the experience you want to have? Like, I love connecting with people. Like, I want to connect with people through conversation. That's something that it's an experience I want to make sure I always have in my life, no matter what it looks like. And so when you have those, then all of a sudden you can look at, okay, right. So what are the ways I can bring that? What can I do about having that, regardless of the circumstances? And that's really important, because otherwise we get all resentful and pointing fingers at on how all these other things aren't giving us what we need and blah, 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 blah. But the truth is, right, we got to do it first, right? So we do it first. And then all of a sudden there's space to be able to see, okay, what are the different ways that we can get it? What are the diverse ways that we could potentially get all of these things from the different jobs or businesses, relationships, family, friendships, solitude
I just
times.
love it. I just love it. I love it. It's like, get curious. It's like, get curious with yourself. And the word that you used, I don't know if you actually use this word, but I felt it, was spaciousness. Like, I think you said space. All of a sudden you have space.
Yeah.
And the feeling of space is a gift.
Yes.
And this gives you that. It is a gift in and of itself. And I really appreciate how, like, through those few questions, and I encourage you to write those questions down. If you've missed those questions and it's the live show, this will be on podcast. So go back and get those questions. So revealing. There's so much power in those simple questions. Such a great place to start. So now at this stage in your life, what does success mean to you?
Oh, it's interesting, because now here I am. I have an international online coaching business, and I have my wonderful partner. I have my daughter. I'm like, I feel like and we just bought our dream home. We're leaving Toronto now, and we bought a place by the lake. I'm like, does it get any better than this? I don't know.
Well, yeah, you're going to be a published author really soon.
And yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Power Love Dating is coming out.
Yeah.
And so, you know, for me, what success looks like is either having or being en route to my current version of having it all. So that changes for me over time, right? And it's always important for me to say it that very specific way, because I think it's just as important to really to enjoy the fruits of our labor, right? And to, you know, like, one of the biggest, oh my gosh, can I just share this real quick? So when I was out for us to get our new home, I was blocked about it. That was the next thing. Why can't I make this happen? Why can't I manifest this thing? I'm really good at manifesting things. I'm good at making things happen. What's going on? And one of the shifts that I really needed to get was that, and I was getting so annoyed with my current house. That's why we need to move. Our family's growing, we needed to move. But I was getting resentful and annoyed, crowded, And one of the key shifts for me was realizing that the house I'm in right now is literally a previous dream that has come true. And I remember the moment when Tommy and I were living in his very tiny condo together. And I remember the moment him telling me about this place that was becoming available. And I literally started crying, because it had the front porch, the backyard with a place we could have a fire, where my dog could run around, where I could have my home office, and it was detached, and like all of these things.
Yeah.
And I was like, when I got myself present to that feeling, oh my gosh, that was so huge in me shifting to be able to actually make what I wanted now to happen. But I'd forgotten that this was a dream come true. It's just, I now have a new dream, but it's important to hold both, right? The recognition of the dream fulfilled while creating a new dream to be fulfilled, right?
It's just like another example. I feel, I don't know if you define it this way, but when you talked at the very beginning of the show about the in between, and just the coexistence.
It's everything. It's everything.
It is.
Nobody's talking about it, but it's everything.
And so I think you've led this way, but talk to us a little bit about how you've got to this point where you've kind of labeled it as the in-between. And how pivotal is that in the work that you do?
Well, to be honest, so I only just recently, like fairly recently, defined that term, like in something that I say now. I was always saying it, but
Yeah, in different ways.
and I was always doing it. But yeah, it's only actually more recently defined, because I looked at, there's two parts to the work that I do. There's trainings that people do that I've, done that gives people. So in the Power Love Project, for example, there's different trainings that you do, and it gives you direction and guidance towards uncovering the things you need to uncover so you can fulfill the things that you want to fulfill, to help you with the clarity and all of that stuff, right? Blind spots, armor, vulnerability, all that beautiful stuff. But where the coaching always comes in, and this is, when I was looking at what's the difference between people doing this work with coaching and without, is the coaching, I was telling you, like 90% of the coaching that I do with people is helping them navigate that in between.
Yeah.
Because we want to know the answer, or we swing one way, we swing to the other. That guy didn't work, so I'm going to do the opposite. Or I hate my boss, so I quit. Like it's just boom, 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 boom.
It's like ping pong.
And really, and it's stressful, it's destructive, and it keeps us more in the, if the what becomes possible when we start developing that muscle of navigating the in-between. And it's not a quick overnight, like I can say it like a nice buzzword,
right?
But really, I'm telling you, it takes work, and it takes navigating. And usually we ourselves are blind to it. We actually can't even see it as possible most of the time. Right. So it is hugely pivotal in the work that I do with people, because I can see it, and I can't necessarily see the whole path, but I know how to navigate. And that's the part we don't like to do. We want to know that something's going to turn out for sure and exactly the pathway to get there. We don't like hearing that we may need to, swim around a little while to find, but that's where the treasure is.
Exactly. That's where the treasure is. I love that. And I having known you only for a few years now, and seen from, the outside, I've been, observing you and watching your evolution. I really have appreciated this time in understanding sort of behind the scenes and pulling back the curtain a little bit to see how your personal transformation has been mirroring what's happening in your business, because your business has just continued to evolve and grow and deepen. Yeah. And so, what is your hope for your business? Like, what is it that you dream for, and the clients that you serve and those that you serve?
Yeah, well, I've really just stepped into the next evolution of the business, which is why I'm now calling myself empowerment coach. Whereas in the past, the last few years, I focused on love, right? So people either finding love or in their current relationships. And I still do that. I still love to do it. I think it's such a juicy place for personal development to happen, because it's the parts we avoid, the parts we don't want to develop in ourselves, right? So I love it. But really, ultimately, my mission in particular, I want it for all people, but I just love working with women so much. So really, my mission is literally to empower as many women as possible to be free and live, and to have permission and the drive to live their version of their dream come true. And then when they fulfill it, do it again with the next version of their dream.
I love it. Do it again with the next version. And so if this is something that you need in your life, I do this work, but one of the things that I've learned with coaches is that not everyone is for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. And so if Michelle speaks to you and she's got this like counseling psychology background, she's got the Reiki stuff, she's got like all this juicy stuff, please reach out. Her contact information will be in the show notes, michellebaxo.com, or through Facebook. Before we go, I want to ask you a few things. One is that I've got a few rapid fire questions I wanted to ask you before we got to those. Because we could have talked like forever. Like,
I know.
Really could. I feel like we've just started. And so I'm sure there are many things that we have not even been able to get to, but is there one thing in particular that you're just dying to get out and share that you regret not having shared when the show ended?
Oh, I don't know. What I would say actually is there are some things in my journey that are like pretty raw and real. I know we got pretty raw and real here, but there's an even rawer and realer version of my story of going from powerless to powerful, specifically in my love life, but ultimately that was my relationship with me that changed that. So when you guys go to we'll see if we can get it in the show notes, but if not, go to my website and it says like start here. It's like the first button you can push is going to give you access to me giving a talk that really shares. And I'm telling you, like, so I just, that's one thing that I would say, because there's so much in there that I would have loved to have shared that it would take too long for us to do.
And there's also a freebie.
That's the freebie. No,
that's the freebie. Yeah, okay. I was like, I know I'm missing something. That's the freebie.
No, that is the gift that I want to make sure people do, especially because inside of like, I know you guys really like to hear it real. You don't just want like step 1, do this, step 2, do that, right? Like you guys want to hear it. And I don't know, everybody's a little bit different, but my approach to all of this is I will only coach as long as I'm living the coaching, so my coaching evolves as I evolve, and I'm in it with everybody. I'm not done. I'm not.
I love that.
And I think that's just really important, which is why I really love helping people learn through sharing as well.
I love that. So can I ask you a few rapid fire questions?
Do it. Bring
it. What advice would you give to your younger self?
It's going to be okay.
Oh, honestly. I wish I learned that younger, because that's exhausting. Yeah, that's an exhausting thing. Yeah. What does the world need more of?
Actual love.
And do you have a go-to book or podcast that you need to share with the world?
Oh, besides my book coming out.
Well, I should have said that. Aside, of course, aside from your book. Yes.
Besides my book coming out, and then
How I Love Dating.
And the other ones that are going to soon to follow. Gosh, I go through, so one go-to book. No, I don't have one go-to book. Most recently, I've just absolutely adored for women in business. I have loved Denise Duffield Thomas, her book, Chillpreneur. Oh my God, Louise, you got to read it. Yeah, it's so good.
Okay, it's on my list, my Mother's Day book list.
It's challenging all of the male driven ways we understand what it even means to have a business. And it was awesome for me, like when I was a new mom and really relooking at how am I going to, I had to change my business obviously when I became a mom. And so that was the perfect book for me, but I just think it's perfect for everybody, no matter what stage of business that you're in. Warning, you may want to change everything after you've read it.
And so remember the space in between. Remember that. Let that sort of echo through your mind and your body as you read that book.
That's right.
And I didn't even get a chance to talk to you about, because I wanted to talk to you about motherhood and running a business, and we didn't even get into all of that.
I know. We'll just do another one.
So when your book comes out and we have some, you need, you're trying to get some word out about the book, and we're gonna have you back on the show.
Yeah, totally.
All the things. Michelle, a huge, deep thank you to you for spending your time with me and my listeners. I just loved every moment. I hang on to every word that you share and have to say. And thank you so very much.
It's such a pleasure. I really appreciate being here, Louise. And thank you to those who are listening.
Yes. And of course, I want to say thank you to all of you who are listening as well. And remind you that information about my show and guests can be found at louisehreed.com. Also, a big shout out to my producer, Cameron Steele at Contact Talk Radio Network, and always my other half, Jay Andrews. And if you've been inspired by today's guest and are ready to level up in your own life, contact me, contact Michelle. I don't care who you contact someone. Just follow that whisper of your soul and please get growing. Until next week, I'm Louise H. Reed, wishing all of you a bold and courageous day. Goodbye, friends.
Bye-bye.